Up next on Inside the SCCA, catching up with the first. Welcome to Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Bielanski, and today we've got a pretty cool episode coming up. We are going to catch up with the first ever guest on Inside the SCCA. Jason Pribyl is going to be with us just a second. And also, we're going to debut a new feature here that we're going to do every week. Basically, news and notes about stuff going on with the club if you wait till the end of the show. I'm going to end each show with some headlines, some news, some info, some whatever you want to call it. But a little more stuff other than just interviewing a guest, and kind of keep you up to speed with what's going on with the club here. So let's get right to it. Here is our guest for the day. He looks not even a day older than he was when we first caught up with him back in the day. We started this show, Jason, October of 2021. I believe you had just come off of being at the Runoffs, right? Or was it the Runoffs the year before that?
Yeah, that was the year off of the Runoffs.
Okay.
October 2021. It was probably like
at Indy.
Weeks after, I think.
Yeah.
Indy.
So I'd heard about your run at Indy, and we were in the midst of the pandemic, and I had been laid off from my job, which allowed me to start doing some podcasting, and I've always wanted to do something with the SCCA. And I just decided to take a swing for the fences and start the podcast. And I, like I said, I heard your story, and I got in touch with your dad. Your dad got me in touch with you, and all things came together. So you were season 1, episode 1. Lots happened since then, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, you and me both. It's been quite a journey.
So let's chat for a second. Kind of go back to that first episode, and the reason we had you on is because you had gone to the Runoffs in an FE2 car at Indy, and it was one of your like 3 races into racing cars that weren't go-karts, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we ended up doing the whole season.
Okay.
Obviously, races versus weekends, all that.
Sure.
You know, I could count on 2 hands the amount of races I had done before the Runoffs, definitely. Right. And yeah, so that was definitely interesting.
That was crazy.
Looking back on it, it's you know, with the experience I have now,
right.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, but we talked about it, though. You did it the right way. You know, you went through karts, but when you went to go race big cars, you didn't buy a car. You went and rented. You had a good team you were working with. So you did all the right things. And when people ask me what we're doing and how to get your kid involved in racing, you know, you did what I tell people to do, you know. And I think that is part of your success, is that while it's cool and fun to do it on your own, and if you come from a long lineage of racers and your family had been racing forever, that's fine. Then it's kind of easy. But if you're kind of new to the sport and you don't have a long history in doing what we do, renting with a good, solid, established team where you can get some coaching is really important, right?
Yeah. It comes down to meeting new people. That ended up probably being the most valuable thing. I mean, like, I learned a lot from that first season of racing cars, but the people I met that season that I probably wouldn't have met, or at least not to that level of, you know, companionship,
right.
I guess, that was, for lack of a better term, life-changing. I mean, the people I was working with that year helped me out a lot the year after, and
right.
even so on. They've put me in touch with more people that are, you know, amazing, and they've helped me out a lot. So
all
yeah,
right.
it comes down to that networking thing everyone talks about.
So there's another thing that I think is the X factor here, and I'm going to probably embarrass you for a moment. It really helps for two things. First of all, you're a good kid, and I still call you a kid because you're what now, 22?
18.
18? So you're absolutely still a kid.
Yeah.
But no, you're a good kid. You're respectful. You talk to people well, and you know, and so many. I'm not bashing kids, but it's just true. You know, so many youngsters come up with an attitude, and they come up with lacking a little humbleness. And every time I talk with you, I get the impression that that's not you. So that's the first thing that makes teams want to work with someone like you when you're young. The second thing is you do a really good job of not wrecking. And if someone's going to put you in their car, they want the car to come back with four wheels on and pointing in the right direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get in this eventually, I'm sure. I've unfortunately changed those ways just a touch, but
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm better. I didn't do too much of that this year at least.
Good. Good.
But
Well, but you're still young, so I mean,
that's part of the thing that
right.
happens with racing,
Yeah.
right? When you're on the edge, eventually you're gonna make mistakes.
Sure.
I remember talking to my dad after the first year of racing, and we had set aside a sizable amount of crash damage money.
Right.
And he told me at the end of the season, he was like, you know, I'm surprised you didn't crank the car up. And I was like, yeah,
Oh, the kiss of death.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But, yeah, no, I mean, it's part of racing. That
Right.
It's going to happen to everyone at some point.
So I followed you along over the last 2 years plus now, and we've chatted off and on, and I've kind of seen what you've been up to. So let's go through what you've done since we chatted 143 episodes ago. What did you do in the 2022 season?
Yeah. I wonder, I guess not. That was way early on. So back 2022 or 2021, like end of 2021, the team that I raced with, Rencraft, in FE2, Tony, the owner, talked to me. He said, well, you know, I like you. You're a good driver. Let's go do something bigger. So we had originally planned to start up a USF Juniors team. That was pretty last minute. I mean, I think he talked to me in November about it. The whole idea was we needed to get another driver to fund the team because obviously I couldn't do that on my own. We needed a hauler. I mean, Tony is the type of guy that only does things right.
Right.
And that's a very valuable thing, as we learned, because we didn't end up getting the Tony deal figured out. We had just enough money to work with someone else on the lower end of the price point, and it didn't really work out the way we wanted to. Ended up missing the first race of the season due to that, and it was just a bit of a mess at the beginning.
Right.
So we made the switch over to sports cars. Ran the Spec MX5 Challenge Series, which is great. It's I mean, really the future of Spec Miata.
Right.
I'm not entirely well versed in sports cars, especially Miatas, but it was a fantastic group of people. Mazda did a great job with everything, and
well, and to prove that point, they're now an SCCA national class, and they're going to be part of the runoffs this year for the first time. So, yeah. You know, Mazda puts a lot of time and effort into the SCCA. So,
yeah, I mean, that whole series is their heart and soul. Obviously, the MX5 Cup is one thing, but the MX5 Cup can live on its own. The
right.
Spec MX5 series, that is kind of, you know, where you grab the drivers from the MX5 Cup, the ones that are really skilled.
Right.
And Mazda puts a lot of effort into that, and, you know, that just makes it all the better,
right.
You know, for both series. So, yeah, I'm really happy for Justin, the manager of the series. He got that deal figured out for the runoffs, and you know, I've been in touch with him ever since, and yeah, it's always good to reconnect with those people. That was obviously the first time I wrecked a car as well that season. So,
well, in those cars, wrecks are often not unusual and not necessarily always your fault.
Yeah. No, one of them was.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'll take the blame for that. It's young driver ready to go fast, and humbled me a little bit more. So.
Sure.
But like I said, that's got to happen for a driver like myself.
Right.
But yeah, so 2022 finished up. We did a race in the Spec Racer Ford
Yep.
just because, right? Heard so much about it, figured might as well, right? Blackhawk Farms. So you know that story from episode 1 of
Yep.
just it's a track I know, it's a track I love. Ended up first time out in the car was qualifying. I qualified third of 20. Didn't win a race that weekend, but came second, I think, both days. So pretty
Sure.
solid.
Yeah.
And then finished out the season doing the Chris Griffiths test
Okay.
at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a USF 2000 with turn 3. That group was somebody that Tony pointed my way. And that really set everything off. A lot of things that I didn't even know happened because of that test. People found my name, and that was, one of my breakthrough moments.
Right.
Was that last test. So we tried to get a USF 2000 team going for 2023 or season. That's a little harder than it sounds, even though it sounds really hard.
Sure.
So we couldn't do that, but I had a really great time in the Spec Racer Ford, and it was great racing. So we chose that for the season. Ran a H pattern pretty much the whole year, which was so much fun.
Right.
Ended up coming second in that championship, so that was cool. And we did some F1600 with race prep. I remember I think it was at June Sprints. Greg had reached out to us. He only had one driver, and that driver needed a teammate. So he said, "Well, I know you. Come out, and we'll get things sorted. You can run Road America with us." Did that. Great weekend. That kicked off the Team USA scholarship for me. So the Team USA scholarship is a F1600 scholarship program that's run by Jeremy Shaw, who's a great guy.
Sure.
So much fun to talk to. If you don't know who that is, just listen to IMSA Radio. That's him.
Right.
So, yeah, that was a great experience. I didn't end up making the team. It was Aaron Hauk and Jack Sullivan who went over to the UK for a full month to race F1600 at the Walter Hayes Trophy and Formula Ford Festival.
Right.
But overall, I mean, that was an incredible experience. Got to go into a USF 2000 again with Pabst, which was another great experience. Unfortunately, we still couldn't find the budget for that either. So
right.
But it's been a busy year, definitely.
So Augie Pabst, I don't know if you know this. I think I mentioned it to your dad. He and I, when we went to driver school back in the late '80s, were in the same driver school together.
Like road cars driver?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's we go. I'm sure he doesn't remember me. And you don't forget a name like Augie Pabst, And with his family's background, it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But so yeah, that's cool that you get a chance to do something like that with a level of team like Pabst and all of that. They've got the right equipment and the right money and the experience to put good cars on the track.
Yeah, that was. Man, I keep thinking about it. It's just that was just such a great time. The cars were amazing. The whole team dynamic was it was perfect. I mean, it's exactly what a race team is meant to be.
Right.
Augie does a great job. I mean, he's got the hard-earned luxury to make sure that his team is perfect in every way. When it comes down to the drivers, the crew, it's not just who can do the best job, it's who works well with the team, and that's really what makes it. And the dynamic there was awesome. It was a lot of fun to be around them.
So let me ask a question, and so a lot of, it's hard to do what you're trying to do, and hard in so much is that it takes a bucket full of money to do it. and you don't have one of the big names. You don't have an Andretti or a Ray Hall or any of that behind your name. So and really at the stage that any young driver is at, they're going to have to pay their way into what they're doing. Either by bringing sponsorship or having family wealth or whatever. And, you have been able to continue to get yourself maybe into not season rides, but to keep doing stuff, to keep your name out there. How are you doing that? Is it just people seeing you and giving you opportunities, or how much are you thumping the streets to get this thing done?
Originally, actually not really. So back when I got into the FE2, first season, I think I was talking to Tony about this, and he got a message from my dad on Facebook. That's how we got that seat started up. Originally, we were going to race Spec Racer Ford. I think I mentioned that in the last podcast, so I won't go too deep into it. But that definitely set out the whole thing. We got linked up with Turn 3, and at the end of the season, Tony told us to go to Turn 3. He said, yeah, this team is good. They're good people, and they've got fast cars. Luckily for us, they also had a lot of vacancies at the time. So it was Jonathan Brown in USF Pro and me in USF 2000. So it was two drivers. It wasn't anything crazy. So that part was nice. It was an opportunity that doesn't come around often. So that really wasn't that hard to get into. I think it was like 2 weeks notice kind of deal.
Wow.
Since then, I mean, the owner of Turn 3, Peter Dempsey, he actually reached out to Jeremy Shaw at the end of the Griffiths test. And that's how I got my name out to the Team USA scholarship. Since then, it's been relatively smooth sailing. That Griffiths test was super valuable. That first one, it got my name out to a lot of people. Second time around with Pabst, same thing. I've been contacted by, I've been reached out to by a number of teams at this point. While I can't say specifically which teams, I'm comfortable saying that I've received, sliced rates.
Sure.
From teams, which is obviously super helpful, and that's really what's kept me in the game so long, is just being able to mitigate some of that loss while keeping my name out. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to get a full season in. I'm pretty hard on myself with everything when it comes to trying to make a good impression whenever I can, because I only have so many opportunities.
Right.
So you just have to work twice as hard.
So, and if you can't tell me, that's fine. But when you get invited to a test, are you having to pay your own way to that test once you get invited?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the story.
Sure. And the reason I ask is because there's going to be other people out there who are thinking about, trying to get their kid into professional motorsports, or another young driver who wants to do it themselves. So I'm trying to kind of like pull the layers of the onion away here and give people an idea what they're getting, what they're maybe getting themselves into.
Yeah. I even when teams reach out to me, and when it's teams I've never even been I've never been in contact with, they still come to me saying like, hey, this is our rate.
Sure.
Do you want to run with us?
Sure.
It's not necessarily, hey, we want you to run with us. This is, you can just come here and race for us, right? It's a little different than that. The discounted rate stuff does mean a lot, though.
Sure.
It's not just about money, right? Because we have the expectation of spending money wherever we're going to go. It is just about the fact that that team sees us as a valuable asset, and that's really affirming. It's great. But yeah, no, I mean, same story everywhere. I can't think of a single USF 2000 driver that's going to be a paid driver.
Right. Or even not having to, just not to have to pay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, they're going to give me money to go racing. It's another thing to say they're going to let me race and not spend my own money to do it. That would even be a nice, if you can get here, you can drive my car kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it has to be rewarding when the phone rings, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of times I've woken up to emails and I'm like, what's going on here? Because it's a big jump for me. I mean, I'm still not used to it, right? Like, uh, I'm to me, I raced Spec Racer Ford last year in the Northern Majors division,
Right.
right? Sometimes I forget that I have done what I've done in the USF 2000 and in the F1600s and Team USA stuff. So it's a little confusing at times where I get emails from teams that are, personal and they're, you know, like they're actually reaching out to me legitimately. So it's interesting. It's cool and it definitely keeps me motivated.
Sure.
It's one of those things for sure.
Sure. So have you had a chance to do any, I call it reverse marketing? When a team contacts you, have you ever had a chance to sit down with them and say, okay, so why did you contact me? How did you find me? What was your, I mean, obviously you just want to be grateful and go drive, but it'd be interesting to know which part, what did they see? How did they find you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, a few of the teams I have, yeah.
So maybe are these
Few
like teams that you were at a test with another team and they were at the same test and saw you at the test? Is that kind of something part of it?
That's part of it, yeah. A lot of the times that's what happens. Sometimes it's a team that I've worked with in the past. Won't name names for this one, but there's
Sure.
one guy who's been helping me out a lot lately, and he's been giving me a lot of names, and basically he's been sending people my direction.
Okay.
And so I've gotten two pretty good offers that one of them I'm pretty sure we're gonna take up. And that's all because of him. It wouldn't be that way without it. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, I had talked earlier about you being clean with the cards, and you've mentioned that maybe that's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
How important is it to, I guess, be as clean as possible, but understand that even if you do have an incident here or there, it's not going to be, it's racing, and people understand that, right?
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing is, you have to pick and choose where you make mistakes and where you don't,
Right.
right? A team's not going to be happy if you have three races every weekend and you're crashing out of one of them each weekend,
Sure.
right? On the other hand, if you make a mistake, everyone understands, especially the teams that drivers are human at the end of the day.
Right.
Um, and when you go for a move that maybe you shouldn't have, someone breaks earlier than you expected, like there's such small things that can happen, you
Right.
know. And it's all about risk versus reward, and sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you just ignore the risk, right?
Right.
And that happens. Some teams want you to ignore the risk. Other teams would rather you bring the car home.
And is that
I
is that a conversation a team has with you going into the weekend?
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I have to ask, but at the end of the day, it's really what the team wants out
Right.
of you, right? So I've talked to teams and I tell them like, oh, well, if I go over this curb, if I do this, then it's going to destroy the floor pan. And they tell me, why does that matter? You're going faster,
Okay.
you know? So it's stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's not just crashing. It's about keeping the car, you know, intact just from regular wear and tear, right?
Sure.
Some teams have the expectation that you're gonna destroy the car by the end of the weekend just by driving it fast. And you know, while I'm not used to it, I'm open to the prospect of it.
Sure. 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 So, you're young. You've done a lot in your short time. Part of going to these tests, I'm sure, is the conversations between you and the team's engineers or crew chief, or I don't know what the terminology is at that level. How has that been going for you? Have you gotten any feedback on your feedback?
Yeah, yeah. Greg Rice, the first ever race I did was in the F1600 in 2020. And that was with Greg. Since then, I had not raced with him at all since. I was, a green driver, didn't know anything about driving a race car, right? Didn't know anything about giving feedback. I remember like I just couldn't tell him what the car was doing.
Right.
When I came back, like 2.5 years later, I was doing the data for him. I was giving him setup options. I was challenging everything he said, and sometimes we made decisions based on what I was telling him versus what he was telling us, right?
Right.
And he had told me, he said, listen, I'm actually really impressed with how you've grown as a driver and as a teammate, and you're helping us out a lot. We ended up going to another race weekend, and the same story. It was just, I tried to, you know, apply my skills the best way I could. Obviously, I'm still working on the whole setup thing, but it's definitely, I'm hearing good things from teams about, what I'm able to do, and that's got to be, rule one for every driver, is being able to give good feedback, because that not only makes you faster, it makes the team more comfortable with you. It helps them know what's going on, you
Right.
know.
So when you're 18 and working with, I'm guessing, engineers who are often maybe even twice your age, do they take what you're saying pretty much at face value, or do they question it, or how is that interaction?
It's all about how you say it.
Sure.
Sometimes there's times where I'm like, oh, I think it's doing this, or I'm like hesitant on my answer. And these guys have worked with drivers long enough to know that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And then there's other times where I'm saying, yeah, no, like, car's doing this. I want it to do this. I hate, I hate how this feels. Let's change this.
Right.
Sometimes I'll give them specific stuff like, hey, let's dampen or stiffen the rebound. Let's change the roll bar settings, right? Stuff like that. And that really is what helps engineer kind of trust you more.
Right.
But as long as you're going fast, and as long as the setup changes that they're making as per your suggestions are making you faster, they're
Right.
going to trust you.
Sure.
I mean, they have, in some sense, they have no other choice, right? So, but yeah.
Have you found that your style is adaptable to whatever the car is they give you for the most part, or do you like a car a particular way?
I do like a car a particular way. I have a bit of a strange driving style I discovered. I love to trail brake. Um, and yet in a car that likes trail braking, I sometimes tend to not. It depends on the car, but the spec racer, for example, everyone told me not to trail brake. They
Right.
said brake in a straight line, let off, and coast through the corner. And I said, I'm all right. And so every time I would, bash it down the gears, and like into Road America turn one, I'm trail braking through the corner, and I've got the wheel held straight the whole time,
Yeah.
right? I do one turn in, and then the car's just drifting through the corner, right? So that's the way I like to drive. I like, to get the car loose on entry and just drive it with the throttle through the corner.
Right.
And that works with most cars, I would say. The one issue I had was when it came to racing the Miatas, just because those are power steering, I couldn't feel
Okay.
anything, right? So, that my driving style didn't really work for a car like that.
Sure.
But Formula cars, stuff like Spec Racer, open top, stiff suspension, loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you doing outside of racing?
Well, right now I'm currently in the process of switching schools.
Okay.
I'm in college now. I'm gonna be back home for this semester, and then we'll see what happens then, because there's some questions revolving around what I'm gonna be doing next year that might prevent me from going to school.
Right. Right.
Um,
Oh, you're
in the
teasing us now, Jason. You're teasing us.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you more. It's just I don't want to tell you guys something and then ends
No, I
up
got
not
you.
happening and all that. But I mean, it's been just catching up with family lately. Home for the holidays. I'm sure once I settle back into a rhythm, it's going to be a lot of sim racing.
Yeah.
So, once I'm done racing for the season, I go race.
So speaking of sim racing, before I get to sim, let's go back. So when the semester you did do, what was the program? What do you plan to study?
I'm studying computer science right now.
Okay.
I was originally in the motorsports engineering program at IUPUI, which, if I have a moment, it's a great program. It just wasn't for me.
So IUP, UI, Indiana University, Pennsylvania.
Purdue University, Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yeah, so
cool.
it's a college based in Indianapolis. They're splitting schools, so it's going to be IUI and PUI next year. So Purdue and Indianapolis. It's a great program. The first class, was called Intro to Motorsports, and we had every class we had a different guest speaker. We had Stefano De Ponte of Dallara USA, the CEO of Dallara USA, there a couple of times. General manager of GM Motorsport, Kevin Bayless, I think, and then just tons
top
of
level folks.
Yeah, it really was impressive, and you get to learn so much about it. I personally love math, so obviously there's a lot of math.
Oh, you are a
involved.
sick human being. No.
Yeah. But
that's funny.
So there's stuff like that, but it's a really, really good program.
Sure.
I appreciated it. It was just, some things didn't work out. I realized that I like driving race cars better than working on them. So
Right.
That's my story. But
yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, computer science, if you have to end up footing the bill for your own career for a while, you're going to make a whole lot more money in computer science than you are going to be in motorsports engineering.
Yeah. One of my whole things too was I want to be able to own a house and I want to be able to live in it.
Okay.
And with both of those, computer science and motorsports engineering, you can own a house.
Yeah.
In motorsports engineering, you can't really live because you're gone every other weekend.
Exactly.
So you're busy with motorsports, and that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make as a driver, but not as a mechanic.
Gotcha.
Or an engineer.
Fair enough. I forgot what I was going to ask. Sim racing.
Yeah.
I remember back, I don't know, probably not too long after we talked, you did a F2000 or USF 2000 race at Gateway. Was that an invite-only event, and how did you get the invite?
So that was because I was affiliated with Road to Indy at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, that was invite only. It was for Road to Indy drivers and IndyCar drivers. So we had a few IndyCar drivers. Connor Daly was there. James Davison. So yeah, that was invite only. That was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah,
it was cool. I don't know a thing about ovals, but
you ran in the top 10 for a lot of the race, and I think, did you wreck out at the end?
Across the line, I got 6th in that race.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
But, it was
I watched that whole race actually.
Yeah, it was intense because I was just sitting behind the top 5, not knowing what to do.
Right.
Like, I don't know how to pass on an oval.
Exactly.
It was just mostly like, I just don't want to crash because this is cool. I'm racing against Connor Daly. Like,
yeah,
so I'll take it.
So when I started doing this internet radio thing, way back before the podcast, I had a show, the RacingWire radio show. One of our first guests, way back in the day, was Connor Daly. And I got to sit down with him and his dad at an IMSA race. They were running at the time Formula BMW, I think. This is way back in the 90s. Late 90s, early 2000s. And but yeah, so that was so I've talked with him a lot. Really nice guy. And not that I want people to turn to a different podcast, although he does a podcast now that was picked up by Dirty Mo Media, which is Dale Jr.'s podcast juggernaut. And his podcast is a hoot. So when you're done watching mine every week, you can then switch over and watch Connor's or listen to Connor's. Good stuff. How important is sim racing to you in this process?
To me, I look at sim racing as a way to kind of scratch that itch.
Okay.
When I'm not able to race, it's a great way to kind of keep myself sane.
Okay.
When it comes to the whole, racing feel, I've never found that sim racing helps me, especially when it comes to real life racing, unless I'm trying to learn a track.
Sure.
I've talked to a lot of other drivers. They feel the same way, and it could just be the equipment I have. It could be whatever. Like, I'm not spending $2 million on a sim rig.
Sure.
But it is, when it comes to racecraft and things like that, it's so good. I
Yeah.
mean, you can get in a car and race some tight races, every 15 minutes. It's awesome.
Right.
I love it personally. I used to be a little iffy on it, but I see no reason why I would be now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it a lot.
The one thing you're right, it doesn't necessarily give you, if unless you have a $50,000-$60,000 rig. It doesn't give you as much seat of the pants feel as you get in a race car, no question about that. But what I find is it the mental side of it. If you're in a battle with two or three cars over the course of 25 minutes, you can absolutely replicate the intensity, the thought process, how quickly can I make decisions, whether to make that 75% move or that 50% move, deciding how to do that. All of that mental aspect of racing is absolutely replicatable. I think I just made a word up, on a sim that, and you can help make those decisions when you're not worrying about busting up a race car too.
Yeah, it's a great learning ground. Really, I wouldn't say. I think sim racing has made me a more aggressive driver,
Okay.
definitely. Um, I used to be very timid, alongside just the fact that I just want to win races more.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm definitely a more aggressive driver. I'm way more confident in passing and things like that because at the end of the day, you're right. Like you can learn if you can learn without busting up a car,
Right.
then do it. And that's exactly what sim racing achieves. I have a Logitech G29. It's a
Same as me.
$250 sim rig.
Yep, that's the one I got.
It doesn't need to be crazy.
Right.
I'm a race car driver and I use that. I'm pretty quick in it. I think part of the fact is because I'm a race car driver in real life,
Right.
but it's still a great learning ground. It's there's no other way to replicate the mental aspect of racing besides just racing.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. No question. Um, so two things before I let you go. Let's say I've got a kid, 13, 14 years old, doing karts. And it's time to think about stepping them up. What are your top three recommendations for someone who's in that position?
First things first, no matter what, I say go to a school. I mean, you have Lucas Oil School of Racing, you have the SCCA school, and you have Skip Barber. Like those are the mainstream racing schools
Yep, there's a
that
couple
you've
out
got when
west
it
too as
comes.
well that are
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. Like that, you have to do that.
Right.
I have seen drivers come in that don't have the experience of a school, and it shows. There's just a lack of the fundamentals that they need to learn at a race weekend, which is a waste of money and it's a waste of talent. It's a waste of time. It's not a good idea to. I mean, yeah, you have to learn how to drive before you go and race. So I recommend going to a school immediately. When it comes to the young kids stuff, there's a lot of kids that at least a couple of years ago would go straight to USF 2000 and stuff like that, which is just not right. That those cars are not. I mean, there's kids that can do it, but the competition is only going up, right?
And you're going to blow your money
Yeah.
before you have the talent to make it worth your while.
It's a lot of money to spend to learn,
Right.
right? And it's money you don't need to spend, no matter how rich you are, right?
Right.
No matter how wealthy you are, you know, there's just no point,
Right.
right?
Because even if you do have all the money, if you go into that environment and screw up too many times, your reputation is going to have that on it, and you can't. No matter how much money you have, you can't outspend your reputation,
Yeah,
unless your dad's or mom are buying the whole team.
yeah. I mean, that's just the whole thing.
Right.
It's and there's people that do that.
Yeah.
I've seen it more than once where a kid will jump into USF 2000 or something else, and they're just not good enough. They
Right.
either beat themselves up over it or something or other, right? and it just hurts their reputation. And you don't want to see that ever, right?
No.
Yeah, yeah. That's obviously my personal opinion when it comes to that kind of stuff. There are kids that can do that, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that it's impossible that a kid straight from karts can go to USF 2000 because it's happened before. I'm just saying it's probably worth spending some time learning somewhere else, right? You've got like the Skip Barber School, like they have the race series.
Right.
That's now officially on the USF Pro Championships ladder. That gives you a scholarship.
Yep.
You know, you could spend a lot of money or you could spend less money.
Right.
That's the whole thing, right?
Well, and you can jump into an FE2 season with any of any of a dozen teams out there, you know, who have full everything that you would get, and that's going to be a whole lot less expensive. You know, you could probably do 3 seasons in FE2 for what you could do for 1 season in USF 2000, right?
I'll give you this. My season in FE2 costs the same as a weekend in USF 2000.
There you go.
So I ended up getting pretty lucky with my FE2 deal. But yeah.
But even if you don't get lucky, it's 2 weekends.
Yeah, right? Like it's expensive. Racing is not cheap, right? Yeah. And SCCA, I don't give it the credit it deserves even now, right? The cost of my season this year in Spec Racer Ford, with the amount of racing I got, like good racing too. You know, it's less than a weekend in USF 2000.
Right.
For great racing.
Right.
And there's other options if you don't want to be running Spec Racer Ford. Like there's the SCCA Pro Series with FRP.
Yep.
Right. That stuff, 30 cars, open wheel, great learning environment. Yep. It really is, because the stewards there are hard on drivers. I got penalties. Like they're not easy on the drivers at all, because they want to make sure that the racing is safe and they want to make sure that the drivers are learning.
Well, and they want to make sure that whoever graduates from that series to go to USF 2000 doesn't embarrass the series.
Exactly.
Because that's how they become relevant in that ladder system.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. It's a great place to be, and I've got nothing more to say other than when you get the opportunity, you know, SCCA, when it comes to that first year jump, is for younger kids. Obviously, this is directed towards that, you know, development of drivers. It's a great place to be. It really is.
Sure. All right. So tip 1 was go to a school. Tip 2, don't go to USF 2000 right away. Tip 3?
Oh boy. Just ask questions, right? Like that was the whole thing. My dad and I were both open about the fact that we knew absolutely nothing about racing, right? And we still don't. We still have no idea what we're doing, but we're a little closer to it, right? Back when I was running FE2, I mean, my dad literally said, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need your help, right? I need people. We both needed people, and we will always need people to guide us.
Right.
You can't do it alone. Racing is a team sport, and there's always someone who is there longer than you.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna know more than you. So it's all about asking questions. It's about being comfortable with the fact that you don't know as much as the person next to you sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that the teams you are going to work with will respect you a whole lot more for coming in that attitude, and will help you and will be more willing to help you because you're saying, I need this help, I don't know what's going on, than if you came in acting like you knew everything, because they know it's an act. They immediately know it's an act.
Yeah, they can tell. They can tell. Yeah, no, it just makes people want to work with you more.
Right.
It makes people feel more comfortable around you, just being someone that they can teach.
Right.
People like that, you know, it's a good environment to create.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be learning and racing. So why not start early on, start getting comfortable with that.
Right. So. And parents, just to let you know, the teams are just as interested on your attitude as they are about the kid's attitude. Perfect example, not at all having to do with racing, is what my kid is an actor out here in Los Angeles. And we go to these casting calls. And, it's 100 kids. They're all in a room together, and they go in one at a time. And there's cameras in the room. I call it the bullpen. There's cameras, and I thought they were for security or to make sure, whatever. But it turns out that the producers of the show will look at the camera in the bullpen to see how the parents are acting, because the parents are being hired along with their kids. If they hire the kid, the parents are part of the deal. And if you're a crazy train, they're going to skip over your kid. It's the same thing in motorsports is, your dad being a cool guy and not nuts and not a drama queen kind of person is reflective of you. And if your dad's a pain, or your mom, I don't know if your mom is part of the goes to races with you guys or not, but if your parents are causing drama in the paddock, they're not going to ask you to come back.
No, I've seen it, and I've been told this recently, twice actually in the past 2 months, where I've been talking to a team, and I'm getting fit to the car. I'm learning about the team, whatnot, and they'll tell a story because the team owners love to tell.
Of course they do. We all love the bench race.
Yeah, it's the story of the crazy dad.
Yeah,
where you've got a decently quick kid, and the dad is just a nightmare, right? and parents lose seats for their kids all the time because of that, and it's just not helping. I see it a lot, and that's you got to help out your kid when you're doing that stuff, not just financially, not just morally, but in every way. You're part of the team just as much as they are.
And even if the kid's making some mistakes, if the parents are involved in the proper way, the team's going to be more likely to keep you on for an extra race or two to give you a little bit more time to get up to speed. Yeah. So cool. I guess now that what I want to do is give you an opportunity. I'm sure there's a ton of people in the last 2 years that you want to thank who've been part of your growth and progression, and this is your opportunity to give a big old thank you to whoever you need to thank.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, we've been working with Ralph Hansen at Pegasus. So they're a marketing agency.
Okay.
It's just, it's something new we've been working on. We kind of realized that both my dad and I go to school, he works a full-time job. It's not easy to,
it takes time.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not easy to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Getting your foot in the door is one thing it's just not, it's not like it's impossible, but it's not easy to work, so it's been great. We've been working with him. He's been fantastic. We've got obviously my mother who lets me do this. I feel bad because I've been talking to her about some things lately, and it's stressing her out just as much as it's stressing everyone out. So always thank your mom.
Of course.
World Bridge Partners they've been with us for a while. OGO, Slick Products, everyone that's been with us for the past few years, they've all been great. So a little bit wishy-washy, I guess, but we're working on some bigger things right now. Yeah. So hopefully soon.
And Dad, let's not forget Dad.
Obviously not forget Dad. I haven't thanked him enough today. Haven't thanked him enough this whole time. So definitely thank your parents, because you have no idea.
I've had fun watching your progression, and I know that your dad is extremely proud of the hard work you've put in, and that's he wouldn't do it if you weren't putting in the effort. So it's really cool to been following your progress, and we will continue to do so. And maybe in another 144 episodes we'll reconnect again, and we'll even be further up the ladder. And as soon as you have stuff locked down for 2024, let me know, and I will be happy to share that with the folks at home. So
yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be coming soon. I mean, we've got a plan in place. We got to pull the trigger at some point. So we'll be sure to let you know. It's it's been fun watching you and Inside the SCCA podcast grow as well. It's awesome to feel like I've been a part of it, and
Yeah.
you know,
You were the OG.
so,
You were
yeah,
the OG. So
it's surprisingly long ago.
I know
Yeah.
it feels like yesterday though. It really
It
does.
does.
Yeah. So, well, congratulations on all that you've done. Good luck on everything coming forward. Keep us in posted with what's going on. And I look forward to reconnecting several times down the road.
Oh yeah, for
Cool.
sure. It's definitely gonna have to happen at least a couple more times. So
Very good.
Look forward to speaking with you again, and
Very good.
let me know if you need any help with any Super Tour announcements or anything like that, and I'll be happy to add some color again.
All right. We'll work on that as well. All right, Jason Pribyl. He was guest number 1. Now he's guest number 144 here on Inside the SCCA. All right, we're going to move on, and we've got a couple new pieces of stuff that we're doing here. This is a new feature that we're going to do every week here on Inside the SCCA, and it is what I'm going to call news and notes, and I have to get a little creative here on my placement so that I'm not in my, well, maybe we do want the graphic to cover my face. But here's what we got going on here in the SCCA. 15 days until Sebring, folks. The Super Tour will get underway in Sebring, Florida on whatever the date is. It's been running across your screen here at the bottom. I believe it's the 12th, 13th, and 14th or something along those lines. And we're going to be there with the full live coverage on the Super Tour live stream on SCCA's YouTube page. I'm looking for one other piece of info here to see if I can make another announcement, and I can't. Maybe next week I will do that. But yeah, so when this airs, we're recording this before Christmas because we wanted to take a week off and spend time with family. But when this hits the YouTubes, we'll have 15 days until Sebring. I'm working on my preps because, of course, I do the announcing for Sebring, and we're already at 250 or so entries, and there's still time for people to jump in. So, but real excited to talk about that and all of that. Also, another really cool announcement I saw this week, Morgan Burkhart, who was your pole sitter and Spec Racer Ford in 2023 at the Runoffs. And he was running in the top 5 until he had some mechanical problems. Young driver from the Washington, D.C. area. He announced this week that he is going to be joining VGRT Racing. He'll be racing a Hyundai Elantra in the TCR class in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. He's been named the development driver for that VGRT racing team, and just another great example of a youngster who is really getting it done. And we've had him on the show. We had him on the show a couple times, and during the Runoffs as well, as he was the 2023 G-Dub Driver of Excellence, G-Dub Henderson Driver of Excellence, that we give away that award. And so excited for him and his family to bring you that news that he is going to be going IMSA racing in the Pilot Challenge, which is very, very awesome. Also, it was announced today, or this week, confirmed, and we talked about this on our podcast with Eric Prill a while back, and I'll put some links to that podcast in the show notes, and also the links to the Flagtronics podcast. But it was announced this week that Flagtronics in 2024, they will have the system set up at all of the Super Tour races. It will not be required for the in-cars in the Super Tour this year, although it is highly recommended that the drivers start migrating towards that system and putting it in their cars, especially if they're going to the Runoffs, because at the Runoffs this coming year, the Flagtronics systems will be required in all the cars for the Runoffs. A lot of information about that on SCCA.com, plus the podcast that I will link here at the bottom of the show. I've seen the system at work. I think it is a great next step forward in the evolution of what we do in the club as far as safety and technology goes. And I think once it's implemented and it's in all of the cars, it will truly show its value to everybody. So a great safety feature, and in the grand scheme of motorsports, to have something like that for basically $300 per car, I think personally it's money well spent, and it's really a system that will improve improve the amount of green flag racing we have, as well as just another safety feature as well. So, and then lastly, the official announcement came out this week on Runoffs classes for 2024. We also talked about this on the Eric Pribyl podcast a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, Formula 600, Formula Atlantic, Formula Ford, GT1, and GT3 are all going to be on probation for this year at the Runoffs. So what this means is they are Runoffs eligible. If they have more than 10 cars, they will crown a national champion. If they have less than 10 cars, they will not crown a national champion. The other thing is that if they have less than 10 cars, they will not automatically be invited to the runoffs in 2025. So so that's the thing. You need to be able to make sure that you get 10 cars at Road America and that they participate in the week. And that will ensure that these cars will, number one, come off of probation. If they have more than 10 cars at the runoffs in 2024, they will be off of probation. I think with the runoffs at Road America, that probably won't be an issue to get 10 cars in those classes, but it'll be really important to make sure the 10 cars show up and to get your class out of runoffs probation. So that was announced for 2024. Also confirmed something that we've talked about before: the new Spec MX-5 class will be runoffs national championship eligible in 2024. So that's also big news for the folks in that class and kind of the next iteration of Spec Miata here in the SCCA. So that's going to do it. We're 1 or 2 days after Christmas. I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas and they're getting ready to do whatever they're going to do in 2024. Have a great New Year's as well. And this is episode 144. I was so excited today to have our first guest from episode number 1 on. It was a ton of fun talking with Jason and catching up with him, and I look forward to doing more with that as we get ready for going into 2024. 144 episodes, folks. It's kind of hard to wrap my arms around that, but I appreciate all of the folks at home who tune in every week and watch what we do. We put out an episode a couple of weeks ago, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I really, really appreciate everybody for watching. I'm having a blast doing them, and the fact that I get the feedback that people are enjoying it is reason to keep going with it. So that is going to do it for this week's episode of Inside the SCCA. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to the RacingWire Podcast Network or the Racing Network on YouTube. Would also be great if you leave a comment and follow us on Twitter. You can catch us at RacingWire Net. We also have a RacingWire Facebook page as well. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Bielanski. Have yourself a fantastic weekend, a great New Year's. Stay safe and go play with cars.
I'm Abby Shear, and when I'm on my way to an autocross, I listen to the Inside the SCCA podcast.
Inside the SCCA is a presentation of the RacingWire Podcast Network and Rule 15 Productions. This podcast is not affiliated with, endorsed, or sponsored by the Sports Car Club of America. The views expressed within are those of the host and our guests, and not that of the SCCA.